All right, so Louisville Cardinals, they are currently kind of right there in the same tier, same bracket as SMU, right in front of Clemson for the ACC Championship. But Louisville, an interesting team, another team like SMU that went into Miami and took down the Hurricanes last year. Marsh, I'll come to you first for that reason. What do you make of the Louisville Cardinal this year?
Yeah, Jeff Brohm's done a good job with his team. I knew this Louisville loss was going to happen in Miami last year. Chris Bell was an absolute stud. Isaac Brown, who's still there, he is one of the best running backs in the ACC, arguably one of the top backs in the country, just based on his explosive demeanor. So I think this team looks good. For me, the biggest question mark is Lincoln Kienholz, the QB coming in from Ohio State. When you look at his lack of experience and, he's got all the traits and whatnot, but how long will that development take for Jeff Brohm? No better person to do it than him. Louisville is always that team that's lurking. They're like a shark with a blood mile away in the water. They're circling, they're coming. I think they'll be in contention. It all comes down to some of those top games on their schedule. Ole Miss week 1, you get in the ACC slate, SMU, NC State, and then really Pitt at the end of the season. If they get through this early stretch of the season with Ole Miss and SMU, they've got a real opportunity to be in the ACC Championship. Kentucky at the end of the season's not as much of luster as it once was. Louisville's got a really good shot. Another year under Brohm. Isaac Brown is really peaking and one of the most explosive players in the league. So I'll be interested to see kind of how they do in that front part of the season, whereas most of these ACC teams we've talked about, we're looking at the back part of their schedule as kind of the beef. So we may see kind of some interesting rankings that fluctuate, obviously, between the start and the finish of the season.
Ryan, what do you got on the Cardinals?
Yeah, being up in Columbus, word on the street is the Buckeyes might have let the better quarterback get out of the room in Kienholz. In all seriousness, I'm not super sold on him. I do love Jeff Brohm. If anyone can bring it out of him, I do think it's him. I do think it's the style of offense. He took Purdue to a Big Ten championship. He can do a lot with less talent. So that might be what he has to do with Kienholz this year. But besides that Ole Miss game, there is a lot of winnable games on their schedule. I think they will start the season with a loss. That's always a tough way to start the season. But overall, I put them right there in that same category with Clemson and SMU. I think those are going to be the three teams that are right there behind Miami that are really fighting for the right to play in the championship game. I'm much higher on Louisville than I am Virginia Tech, the Florida State, the other kind of second tier of teams there. So I like them, and I'll move on and see what Casey thinks on this.
I think I'm not ready to write off that Ole Miss game to open the season in the Titans Stadium in Nashville. I'm not ready to write that off as a loss for them. Let's see what Kienholz can do. Brohm at the helm calling the offense. You got Brown in the backfield pounding the rock. Isaac Brown, the Lightning, and Keyshawn Brown, the Thunder to his Lightning. And then if Kienholz can exceed expectations, distributing the ball and getting the ball out to the wide receivers, and he's a good runner. Ohio State kind of used him a lot that year that we had Kyle McCord kind of take over and be the primary quarterback at Ohio State. Kienholz would come in as kind of the change of pace running quarterback. I liked what I saw out of him using his legs. He started that Cotton Bowl a couple years ago against Missouri. Offense really kind of sputtered. I think we scored 3 points the entire game against Missouri. That was the year that we had essentially a quarterfinal playoff game against Michigan. Didn't get the job done, and Michigan went on to win the national championship. We got 3 points against Missouri in the Cotton Bowl as kind of consolation prize that year. But Kienholz, it's been 2 years since that game. And hopefully, he's matured physically and intellectually. I think the Brohm boys at calling the offense and the ability to kind of lean on the running game with the Brown boys. I think Louisville could be a threat in the ACC. Brand-wise, I just trust Clemson and SMU a little bit more, given recent track record. Louisville could be in the mix, but they're probably a clear, fourth for me on in this year's race.